3 things I wish I knew before I filed my disability claim. Filing a disability claim can make you feel like you're trying to crack a code. Missing pieces, obstacles, all in your way. Today, I want to make this process smoother for you. 3 things that I wish I knew before I started my claim that could save you time, stress, frustration, and more. Let's unlock the path to benefits that you have rightly earned. Filing a disability claim can make you feel like a maze. Believe me, I've been there. Filing a disability claim can feel like you're navigating some maze blindfolded. Believe me, I've been there. If you're geared up to file or even considering filing your VA disability claim, stick around because I'm going to share you 3 things that I wish I knew before I filed my first claim. These tips could save you time, stress, and maybe even a little sanity. Let's dive into it. Let's start with the first and perhaps the most important thing that I wish I knew before I started. The absolute necessity of a solid medical claim for disability is medical evidence. This is huge. You can't get around having medical evidence. You need your medical records. Check to see if your doctor on active duty or after active duty has given you a diagnosis. When you're on active duty, it is easy to shrug off illness or injuries like we all have done. But this is bad. And I'll tell you, it would be an obstacle for you after you've exited your active duty service. We tell ourselves when we're on active duty, I deal with it later. But I'm here to tell you the solemn truth. Later comes faster than you would ever have imagined. And without medical documentation in your records, it will be an uphill battle for you to acquire your medical disability. Your medical records are essential. They are your storybook to your medical career. They show the VA what happened when you were on active duty. They show the knee injury, the ankle injury, the lower back injury. They show the trigger for PTSD or anxiety or stress due to pain. They show your roadmap to injury, to diagnosis, to side effects, and how it affects your life. Make sure your medical records are tight while you're on active duty service, just in case it becomes a problem later. I suggest to ensure that every incident or diagnosis is properly documented in your medical records. And you should keep, if you're just transition, you should keep a copy of these records. If you're like me, you're a few years out from it, you need to file a FOIA report to get your medical records today. Go to the doctor. Make sure your doctor is placing in your file what your condition really is and not reducing the impact severity of your condition in your life and on your ability to work. Secondary conditions. Don't let them slip by. I didn't understand this when I first filed my claims. Look up secondary conditions. These are conditions that develop as a result of your primary injury. Let me tell you, these often get overlooked by you, the veteran, by your medical provider, and they will be overlooked by your C&P examiner. Sleep apnea, PTSD, knee pain can also be connected to various other primary injuries. Here's an example. Let's say that you have a service-connected knee injury, which is very common. That knee injury, because of the instability of the knee, it can throw out the lower back, causing secondary trauma to your lower back. When I went to my C&P exam, friend, I didn't even know anything about secondary conditions. I assumed that the medical provider at the C&P exam would do what was right. Neither did the examiner ask about any secondary injuries. They only asked about what I had filed for. Later, I learned I should have voiced my concern that this issue was connected to the primary issue. When I was in my C&P exam, I didn't. I should have talked to my primary provider, but I didn't. Secondary conditions are evaluated as though they were caused when you were on active duty. Bring it up in the exam. Don't wait for the examiner to ask you. Be proactive. Explain how your condition has led to other conditions. File a supplemental claim for this secondary issue. If you miss the secondary conditions, it is not too late to add them today. Don't make a mistake like I did, letting these go unnoticed. Secondary conditions can significantly impact your overall disability rating, and it can impact the overall well-being of your mental health and physical health as well. The critical role for the nexus letter from a doctor. This is another one I didn't really understand. The nexus letter is your golden ticket. The last tip is a big one. The importance of a nexus letter from a qualified medical provider who understands the VA system is an essential. It is a doctor writing a report that is connecting your current diagnosis and condition to your diagnosis from your military service. He's making that connection between this and that is what the VA rater is looking for. Is there a connection between your current condition and your military service? Now, here's a bonus tip. I want to throw this in for you because as veterans, we need all the help we can. Get support. Contact an organization that you feel comfortable with, whether it's a third-party organization, whether it's a VSO, whether it's a lawyer if they take your claim, and most claims lawyers don't take them until after you get denials, but if you can find one, that's great. You need support to move along this process. This isn't about whether or not you were legitimately injured. This isn't about whether or not you can work. This isn't about whether or not you can actually play with your kids or spend time with your wife. This is proving a claim in a legal sense to the VA that you are entitled to the benefits under the obligation of the federal government because of your service. This is a claim. This is not the reality of what you've been injured. One of the frustrating things that I realized after I filed a few claims blindfolded is when I read the denials. They all said you have been diagnosed with a disability, but and most of my buts, I lack clear medical diagnosis and I lacked a clear nexus, even though I had these injuries, similar injuries on active duty, some of the very same injuries on active duty. So there was a connection, but they didn't give me the nexus until I got a great nexus letter and I got a great diagnosis. So these things are the things that I wish I knew before I filed my claim. Now, filing a VA claim isn't easy, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. For too many vets like us, it becomes overwhelming. But just remember these three things. Detailed records. Don't overlook any secondaries. And make sure you've got a strong nexus letter from a medical provider who understands the VA disability process. And you will thank me in the future. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If this information has been valuable to you, like, subscribe. And if you know a veteran or a veteran family member who their spouse needs this kind of information, I would greatly appreciate you pass it on to them. This is how we get the information out, and this will help me grow the channel and help other veterans. Again, this is Russ from Veteran Experience. I appreciate all that you do. And as I always say here on this channel, keep fighting for what you deserve.